Hi there, Mike the Vegas Guy here. Thank you for joining me once again as I attempt to rate and review every show playing in Las Vegas. And today, this is going to be a special episode. I am reviewing the Beatles LOVE, the Cirque du Soleil show playing at the Mirage Hotel that has now officially announced its closing date of July 7th, 2024. This is going to be a slightly different format than my usual videos. Obviously, I will review the show, but it's not going to be my usual review. Of course, stay tuned. I will go over the seating chart and the pricing like I always do, but my review, on the other hand, is going to be less about my personal thoughts and convincing you to see the show, because unfortunately, it has a closing date. Because this show is closing, it does change the way I'm going to review the show. In fact, it makes my review rather simple. Are you ready for it? Here comes my review of this show. This is one of the greatest shows in the history of Las Vegas. Go see it while you still can. There it is. Cut, print. It's a 5-star must-see show. Normally, I would factor in the discounts, the seating, the value you get for your money. But in this case, and it is a rare situation, time is running out to see this show. It is an incredible show. You need to go see it. Of course, by that, I mean if you can afford to see it, and I would add, if you have not already seen it. With that part out of the way, I'd like to focus more of this video on the backstory about the history of the show, and more specifically, what's going on right now. I want to do a little bit of rumor control and talk about what's going on at the Mirage and why this show has had to close. The Beatles LOVE opened in 2006 in the theater that was once home to Siegfried and Roy, their legendary show that helped open the Mirage Hotel and put it on the map. To this day, there is still, at least for now, there is a monument to Siegfried and Roy on the sidewalk, and the street leading into the property is named after Siegfried and Roy. By the early 2000s, when Siegfried and Roy's show had its unfortunate end, Cirque du Soleil was up and coming, the next #1 name in the game in town. Around that time, MGM Resorts had made a deal with Cirque du Soleil to start putting their shows in all of their properties. This show in particular, at least in my opinion, ushered in a new era in Cirque du Soleil where they were moving away from their traditional roots and the kind of style that you always saw with Cirque, and they were branching out and doing new things. This show obviously partnered with the Beatles. It paved the way for shows like Michael Jackson 1 and Viva Elvis. This show was a bona fide hit from day one with a lot of press, big name celebrities, most notably Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr being there to give their blessing to this show. The opening coincided with a companion album. It was the first new Beatles album to be released, with remastered tracks done specifically for the live production. It was basically the soundtrack to the live stage show, and it charted. That album alone did very well for itself, and it helped sell tickets to this show. When this show opened, it really felt like Cirque du Soleil was on top of the world in Vegas entertainment and possibly on the global scale. Cut to 17 plus years later, and now the show has announced a closing date of July 7th, 2024. You might be asking, why? How did this happen? Why is it closing? There are a lot of rumors out there. A lot of the articles that got shared in the last week since they made this announcement have speculated that sales have been dwindling. There are reports that the show was only playing to 40 to 60% capacity, which if you've watched my tutorials, you know that's kind of common for Las Vegas. Most shows do not sell out. It's my rule of thumb. Vegas shows don't sell out. But of course, when this show first opened, when a lot of these Cirque shows opened, they were accustomed to selling out most nights. I know at least one Vegas reporter out there speculated on a quote-unquote oversaturation of the market with Cirque du Soleil in particular. There are some who believe that Cirque du Soleil is now hurting to some extent because of their own competition against their own shows. While there's certainly valid reasons to speculate that, you simply can't ignore the fact that shows have not played to capacity the way that they used to prior to the pandemic. Representatives from Cirque du Soleil made it clear in an interview this week that it was not their choice to close this show. I am here to tell you, regardless of any of the economic factors you might read about, if it weren't for the fact that the new ownership of the Mirage, the Hard Rock company who intends to transition the property into a Hard Rock hotel, if they had not kicked Cirque du Soleil out of their space, this show would still be running. Mystère, their original show, you've already seen my review of that, still running 30 years strong. If Love were hurting financially, they would have cut back the number of performances. You would have started to see things like them cutting back from 2 shows per night to 1 show per night. It goes to show you that the attendance numbers were good enough to warrant the cost of continuing to do 2 shows per night. The show was not hurting financially. In Las Vegas, you can keep your show running. You can more than break even not selling out every seat in your theater. When shows do sell out every single seat in their theater, their producers buy new yachts. So pay no attention to those rumors about ulterior motives that Cirque might have had to close this show. The fact of the matter is, Cirque du Soleil is being evicted from their space at the Mirage. Now, the next question that has come up in many of the articles, a lot of speculation going on, people have asked, could the show simply move to another venue? Why don't they just move to another hotel? Why don't they take the show on the road? If you've ever seen this show, that answer should be pretty obvious to you. This show is a massive spectacle with giant moving parts. The stage itself is a character in the show. It can't simply pick up and move somewhere else. A representative from Cirque spoke in an interview addressing this question. Someone asked, could they tour these productions? And simply they answered, if they were to try to do some other version of this show somewhere else in the future, it simply would not be the same show. This leads me to a bigger point I want to make about why you should try to come out and see this show before it closes, because it is truly going away. Unlike your average theater piece, shows on Broadway, Broadway musicals, let's take, for example, the longest running show in Broadway history, The Phantom of the Opera, which closed in 2023 after a 35-year run. Broadway musicals live on, even if the original production closes. Other people go on and produce that musical. You can pick up the script, you can take the orchestrations, you can hire actors and build scenery and do a new version of the same show. Cirque du Soleil shows are not like a Broadway musical. There's no script. For the most part, there is no storyline that you could just have other people tell the same story in a different way. These shows are all about the spectacle. These shows are about the theater, about that stage, and about that venue that you are in. You go to O and see that show on water with that pool and those hydraulic stages that magically appear and disappear underneath the water. That is one of a kind. You're never going to see that show anywhere else. Ever. Which is why it is uncommon for these giant large-scale shows to close. Unfortunately, that's the number one reason why Love is going away. The new owners of this property want to do something else with that space. And in order to do so, they have to completely demolish and dismantle the workings of this show. So this is it. This is your last opportunity to see this one-of-a-kind spectacle. On July 7th, when this show performs its final bow, you will never be able to experience this particular show ever again. So, if you can afford it, if you've never seen it before, if you are able to do so, go spend the money and see this show. It is an excellent one-of-a-kind show. This would be getting a 5-star review from me anyway. It's always been one of my favorites. Let's get into the seating. I'll tell you a little bit why. There really are no bad seats in this theater. It is completely in the round. It's the only Cirque show completely in the round. And like I've said before, with my review on Awakening, In the round, there's really no such thing as a bad seat, only different seats, different views of the stage depending on where you sit. If price is an obstacle for you, I recommend getting the cheapest possible ticket to this show if you want to see it. As of this recording, there are less than 3 months to see this show. Tickets are going to become scarce. Now, I will say for the next 2 months until June, until those last couple of weeks, you shouldn't have trouble getting into the show. If you are willing to spend the money, it should be no better or worse as far as acquiring tickets than any other show or any other normal time you might be coming to see any Cirque show. May is usually a lull in the tourist season prior to Memorial Day. So March and April are the spring break crowd. You do get a lot of holdover because the whole country goes on spring break at different times. It bleeds into April, but that beginning of May is usually a sweet spot if you're coming to Vegas at any point, especially if you want to go see shows. Tickets are usually easy to come by. Hotel rooms are easy to come by until Memorial Day. And then all bets are off. That's the start of the summer season. It's going to be busy. So I would expect June, that last month of this show running, to be difficult to get tickets to, at least especially on a last minute basis. They will probably be selling out close to showtime, if not the day before showtime. I don't know. It could be in more demand than I anticipate. It could start selling out weeks in advance. As of this recording, they have not put the final week on sale. I believe tickets are only available through June 29th. Who knows if they might jack up the prices. That is the other thing to deal with. I can't talk about discounts, unfortunately. Can't really talk too much about the pricing. Cirque is famous for utilizing dynamic pricing. They can change their prices depending on demand. The demand will be going up every week that passes from here on out. So the prices I'm listing on this seating chart were accurate as of the time I did my research. The lowest price being, this is all inclusive after the fees, of course, $95.16. That's from the base rate, the advertised base rate of $75. They were still advertising on Cirque's website tickets as low as $69. Of course, that's before the fees. I was not able to find that $69 base rate. So these were the averages I could find. There were some fluctuations in the prices. Of course, that top ticket, the best viewing of the show, $216.15. If I have any tips about where to sit, I did say there are no bad seats. You will notice the theater is sort of bisected from the top half and the bottom half. There are these big, long entryways on the right and left-hand side. The closer you sit to those, you will have a slightly obstructed view of certain elements of the show. But again, it's just one of those different views. You don't miss what is being shown, but you see a different angle of it. I would stay away. You will see the most expensive seats, those Golden Circle, those $216 tickets. Those are in the middle of those top and bottom sections. So do with that information what you will. But again, get in the door. Pay whatever you want, take whatever seat you can, get in the room where it happens, and see this show before it closes. I'll leave you with a story about missed opportunities. One of my biggest regrets in life, especially as a Vegas show geek, I never got to see Siegfried and Roy. Some of you might be saying, well, yeah, the show closed over 20 years ago. A lot of people haven't gotten to see Siegfried and Roy. I had opportunities to see Siegfried and Roy. Granted, I was a teenager, I was young, I was relying on my parents to purchase the tickets to that show, and back then, it was the most expensive show in town. They were charging $80 to $100 per ticket 25 years ago. It was the hottest ticket in town for a very long time. And during that time in my teenage years, my family was visiting here a lot. We weren't living here at the time. My parents always told me, we'll go see Siegfried and Roy one of these days. Maybe next time. There was one time. It was August 23rd, 2003. I know because I have a ticket stub. I was vacationing here with my father, and my father, who liked to gamble, had hit a royal flush on a 25-cent video poker machine, and he won $1,000. And he came to the hotel room, and he showed me the $100 bills. It's the first time I had ever seen $1,000 in cash. Which, mind you, was a lot more money in 2003 than it is today. Knowing that I loved shows, and I was a teenager, so I couldn't gamble still, I had to go see shows, my dad said to me, pick any show you want to see in town. We're going to go see whatever show you want. And I still hadn't seen Siegfried and Roy, and it certainly crossed my mind. But I was young, and I was stupid, and Celine Dion's A New Day was brand new at Caesar's Palace. They had just built the Coliseum for her. It opened, I think, in April of that year. It was the new hottest ticket in town. And Siegfried and Roy was the show that had always been there and felt like it always would be there. And my dad took me to see Celine Dion at my request instead. For those who don't know, it was only a couple of months later that Roy would be attacked by a tiger on stage, and the Siegfried and Roy show would never play again. That was my last and really my only opportunity to see one of the greatest shows in Vegas history. I've lived a very privileged life, getting to live here, getting to see so many of these great shows over the years. I'm so privileged now that I can say that I've seen Celine Dion 3 times. But if I could go back in time, I would trade that in to see Siegfried and Roy. I tell you that story not just as the obvious reminder of you have the opportunity to know that this show will never be around and to try to go see it while you still can, but also a reminder that this show plays in that same theater as Siegfried and Roy. This space is part of Las Vegas history. And we don't know, after this show closes and after the Hard Rock Company comes in and does their construction, if you'll ever be able to set foot in that room, in that space, even though it's been remodeled since. It does still bear the same footprint as the Siegfried and Roy Theater. You still walk down that hallway, that entrance off of the casino floor through the gift shops and the box office that you get to the Love Theater right now is the same hallway you'd walk down to get into Siegfried and Roy's showroom. It was constructed the same way. It might all be gone. There may not be entertainment in there anymore. The Mirage as we know it, the volcano, the lagoon out front, it's all going away. So this isn't just your last opportunity to see this particular Cirque du Soleil show. This might be your last opportunity to walk the halls of this historic building the way it used to look. The building that Siegfried and Roy helped build, the place where so much Vegas history has occurred. The next 3 months of this year might be your last opportunity to ever walk those halls again. I'm thankful I've had the privilege of doing that myself many times. I'm not going to take up a seat that you, who may have never seen the show, might be looking for in the next few weeks. Go see this show if you can. But even if you can't, wherever you are, don't let opportunities pass you by. Take the opportunity to enjoy live entertainment wherever you are, in whatever form you can find it. And if there's any role I might have to play in that, is with this channel, hopefully I can help some of you get to experience some of those things for as little money as you can, and to help make these live experiences more accessible to everyone. Tell me in the comments if you've been to Love or if you've been to Siegfried and Roy back in the day. Share your experiences. I'd love to hear them. I'm Mike the Vegas Guy. Thanks for watching.